Welcome back, everybody. Today it's going to be a little bit different than what we normally do. Similarly, we have a video going today, an interview, but differently, as you can see, just me here today. And that's because after all these interviews, this episode's going to be about me and my career. I know we're used to seeing a lot of different people, but some people have been asking me and been hoping that I'd do an episode on myself about how I got here and how all this came to be. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So welcome back, and thanks for tuning in. And I'm gonna talk a lot about stuff that's all led to this, and all the things that have gone on behind the scenes and everything. So I hope you guys enjoy it and you find it interesting. So I always knew that I had a lot of interest in sports. It was always something that was super important to me, and I really liked from a young age. I think a lot of that came from my dad. My dad and I both enjoyed sports a lot, so I knew I wanted to do something with it, but I didn't know exactly what. So, yeah, I'll be talking about that and just kind of getting started here. I didn't play a lot of sports when I was younger, but as I got older, I got more into it, and I didn't have as many opportunities to play sports when I was younger, but moved to Hopkinton and started to get opportunities around middle school, late middle school, early high school to play sports, and that was pretty enjoyable. So I was a freshman and I didn't have much experience with sports. I had played a season of rec basketball actually, and I had played a season of middle school baseball both in eighth grade, and those were my first seasons playing sports really. No, I liked them a lot. And yeah, it was good. I knew I wasn't the most talented out there, especially because I hadn't, had an opportunity to play at a younger age, which I wish I could have had, but I was thankful for the opportunity to play. So a lot of it was just working hard and persevering through challenging times to try and get better and keep working. So the freshman, entered high school thinking that I was probably gonna try and play both basketball and baseball. That was my thoughts because those were the sports that I really enjoyed the most and I had a little bit experience with, not a lot at that point, only one season and one of them basketball being rec. So I just continued to try and put in a little bit of work during the summer and stuff like that to improve at both. And that led me to a spot. So when I was a freshman, there was a couple other things that I think are noteworthy to how I got here. One of which was I got the opportunity to actually kind of get some experience with newspaper stuff. I started writing for the Talent, our school newspaper at Hopkinton, when I was a freshman, and I enjoyed doing that. I right away started out writing about sports, and that was pretty fun. That was kind of cool. I went to a few games and got the opportunity to do that, and I wrote about some other sports, but I didn't do it at a big level until later on, like start doing it super often. And that was kind of cool. I knew I liked that. And then I also got to take engineering full year because when you're in middle school, you get to take, like the different classes that aren't like your main core classes like math, science, English, and everything. You get to take those, history. You take stuff that is, like music and art. And I knew out of those little samples I'd gotten, different quarters of the year that I really liked engineering a lot. So I got to do that for a full year, and I really enjoyed it. I knew that sports and engineering were kind of my two biggest passions going into high school. However, I didn't really know where it was going exactly, but I know I was just going to work hard at both and see what happened. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was good to get those opportunities early on my freshman year. And then when winter came around, I decided to try out for basketball. Certainly was not the most talented kid because I didn't have as much experience as a lot of the others, but I continued to work and try and get better with it. And then I actually ended up getting cut from the team when I was a freshman. And that wasn't a huge shock, but I was a little disappointed. But I knew I just had to keep with it and keep working, and I'd find a way back and find a way to be part of the basketball team in some capacity. And eventually I did. But I remember walking out of the gym. It was Coach Signor was the varsity coach, and Coach Merrill was the JV coach at that point for the basketball team. And I had gotten cut, but they, shook hands with me and told me to, keep working. You're a freshman. You still got plenty of time ahead of you, and we're excited to see what can happen with that and just keep working. And so I did. I ended up playing rec basketball that year again, And that was a great experience for me because I got an opportunity to meet a lot of people, a lot of guys there who were seniors that year. Let's see, Jack Filari, there was Zach Conroy, Sam Rawson, Evan Jacobson, Chevy Murdo. There was a lot of guys there who, they had experience with varsity sports, and they were happy to have me along with that team and just kind of encouraged me along and taught me a lot. So got an opportunity to learn from guys who had much more experience than I did, and were kind of leaders, not just like in a sports sense, but also like in the school and everything. And I think that was very influential for my development and who I became. And also, our coach that year was Coach Filari, Jack's dad. And that was the first time I ever met Coach Filari. And I really liked him right away, and I liked how he was like calm and he didn't panic over things, and he was just encouraging us to have fun and have fun getting better and working hard and everything. So that was a pretty cool experience. I'm really grateful that I got the opportunity to do that. And I'd also been working towards baseball because I wasn't the best baseball player in middle school by any means, because I just started, and baseball is maybe the toughest sport that you can jump into. So I'd worked hard during the off season. I was excited to get better and get back to it once, springtime came around and I got to play on the big field. I was expecting to make JV that year and everything, but then everything got shut down with COVID and there was no spring sports. So I think that was a lesson for not just myself, but for every athlete in that school and really all over the country, to not take anything for granted, because you never know what's going to happen next, and you just got to be grateful for every season, because you never know if it'll be a pandemic or if you'll have an injury or what's going to get in your way. So just kind of cherish every moment and work hard and have fun while you get the opportunity to play sports in school. And that was a good learning experience, but I was very ready to back on the field. So just a little disappointment, but at the same time, I was fortunate. I was a freshman and I was not a senior that year, and I didn't miss out on my senior year. So that was, yeah, it was a lesson. And then there were some things that I think maturity wise I was doing well, and some things that I definitely needed to work on and needed to improve on and kind of develop myself in the being a better person and figuring stuff out and figuring out like where all this was going. So the time during COVID where we all were stuck at home gave me time to think and process and really figure out what I wanted to do next and where I wanted to go. So I do think that that time was beneficial for me. And yeah, it was pretty cool to get that chance, even though things weren't going well, with the world, I guess, with COVID and everything. But it was good to take a step back for a bit. And at one point, like, I don't know, halfway through my sophomore year, once we get into sophomore year, I was at home, I was remote, and it was just COVID, and it just kind of stunk. But I just, kept pushing through it. And then when springtime came around, I knew I was super excited for baseball, because basketball was something that I was still interested in, but I just didn't really get any opportunities with it. And then I didn't even try out for the team that year because of COVID and everything, and I hadn't really gotten as much of a chance to work during the off season. I tried to do a little bit individually, but it was tougher to do stuff because of COVID, and there wasn't as many people outside that you could hang out with and stuff like that. But I have a great neighborhood, and we had a lot of great friends here and everything. So that was always helpful during the COVID situation, to have people around my neighborhood. And yeah, so shout out to them, just neighbors and everything, and because that was always a good thing. And it's always great to be involved in sports with your neighbors, and you learn a lot, like just from interacting with other kids your own age and figuring stuff out on your own. And it's just good to be active, I think. So anyway, getting into sophomore year, I finally got the opportunity to play baseball, and our two coaches that year were actually Coach Merrill, who had cut me from the team for basketball the year prior, and Coach Filari, who ironically that was the team that I went to for rec basketball winter prior, to kind of develop my skills with that. So now it was baseball season. I had those two coaches, and I knew both of them obviously a little bit, but I was excited to work and get the opportunity to be back there. And I was not the most talented kid on the field starting out, and that was pretty obvious, I think, to everyone. But I just kept working and kept trying to get better every day and use every practice as an opportunity to do that. And that resulted in, I'd say, maybe not the most successful season, but a successful season in terms of me and where I was starting at, and a grew a lot as that season progressed, and I feel like our team grew a lot as well. We had a situation with COVID where we'd play a lot of local Division 2 schools, and we were, one of the smallest Division 3 schools in the state in terms of population. So that was a challenge for us. We only won one game that year, but we got so much better over that season, which was pretty cool to see. And we had, uh, I'd say, it made us better playing those schools because those were tougher tests for us. And we really believed in our coaches, I would say. So ending that season, yeah, we would have liked to have won more than one game, but we all got so much better, and myself included in that. I got 3 hits that year, and towards the end of the season, and at the start of the season, I didn't really have the batting stance or anything. So to progress that much was cool, and to see, the recognition from my coaches and my teammates really encouraged me along and encouraged me to keep going, I guess, for sure. So yeah, and then there was that whole off season, and I tried to work hard throughout the off season to get better. And then I was entering my junior year of high school, and it felt different to be back in the building because I had been remote the whole year prior, and there was like construction on like our science rooms, I remember, and everything. And the 2 grades ahead of me, um, sorry, 2 of the 3 grades ahead of me when I was a freshman, the seniors and the juniors in 2020 had all graduated. And then all of a sudden, I'm a junior, I'm not, uh, a freshman anymore. And the kids who were behind me who were in middle school were all now in high school. So that was different, but I was very glad to be back. I know that for sure. So yeah, and now, now that I was back, I had plenty of time to think about what I wanted to do, and I wanted to work hard and do well with baseball. And I knew that I needed to have a good group of friends around me for sure in order to be successful and just kind of work through stuff. And I knew I was still interested in doing the Talon newspaper, so I kept doing that, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I had all these goals kind of a little bit, but I was still kind of developing, figuring out what I was going to do. And then when that winter came up, I got asked. I had 2 meetings that really changed, I'd say, a little bit of the trajectory of my high school career and my life. One with Coach Merrill and one with the Meserves. And Coach Merrill had asked me to be manager for the boys basketball team, and I was super excited because I still wanted to be involved, even though that I had kind of, decided over COVID that I was just going to focus on baseball, and taking that the time with COVID definitely hurt me. But I was super excited to be back involved with basketball because I really like the basketball guys anyway. So that was really cool. And then I got asked shortly after by the Meserves to broadcast for the varsity girls team, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. I mean, broadcasting was a whole brand new thing to me, and I was like, okay, this is different for sure. But I'm glad that both things happened because I got to, when the girls were at home, I got to broadcast for them, and when the boys were at home, I got to kind of learn from Coach Merrill about coaching, and he really took me under his wing and taught me like the ins and the outs of coaching a little bit, and got to have a bond with both the guys on the JV and the varsity team. So that was really cool. And yeah, so I got to meet with Jim Rivers. That was the first time I had really met somebody who was a professional broadcaster, and he was calling the varsity and the JV boys games at that time. So, which is why I was doing the JV and the varsity girls, and he kind of taught me how to call those games and everything. I met him, I'd say, like one time, and it was just like we're calling a middle school game together just to kind of get in the motion of things and get me used to it a little bit. And he definitely saw that I could have the potential to be able to do that for a season. He thought I'd be good. So it was cool to get some notes from him and learn from him a little bit. But then I was kind of on my own more that season when I was calling the girls' games. And that was good though. That I definitely got a lot better at broadcasting as that year went on. And it was cool to watch both teams and kind of have a little bit of a bond with both teams for sure. And then the playoffs rolled around, and the girls were on the road at Stevens in the first round, and the boys were at home against Somersworth in the first round. And I know the girls lost on the road. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that game. I think it was like right after school. Um, yeah, all the way in Claremont. And then the boys were at home against Somersworth, and we defeated Somersworth, and that was a good feeling. because we were one step closer. And then after that, we had Mascoma at home, and that was a tough game, and lost a close one there. And both a lot of the guys on Mascoma played really well. I thought both teams were good teams, and it was just unfortunate it didn't go our way. So I was sad because I had a lot of friends on that team who were seniors, and it was sad to not see them win the championship, which is what you were hoping for. We knew it was the last year of Coach Signor coaching the team at the end, and Coach Merrill said he wasn't sure if he was going to be back as JV coach or not. So it was just definitely kind of a sad thing, but I was grateful to be a part of that and learn all about that and everything. So yeah, that was cool. And I also want to take a moment to thank Coach Roy for that broadcasting piece, because he gave me a lot of notes when I first started broadcasting that winter, and that definitely helped. So yeah, and forming relationship with both the teams and the fans was awesome. And then I remember after the Mascoma loss for the varsity boys, I was sad. I felt bad for them, and I was like, I wish I could really do something, because they had a cool story. I thought, just like those guys and how hard they worked, and I thought that they deserved something. And that's kind of where the idea for all these interviews came from, was that experience. So my buddy Brendan Elric, who became a good friend with me during that season, I had asked him, I said, I was thinking of this YouTube thing, and I was thinking of giving that a try. Would you want to come on and be my first guest? And he said, sure, which was a huge thing. So still thank him for that, because, if he said, I don't know if that's such a good idea, that could have, maybe shattered my confidence and made me a little bit more not sure on starting this whole thing, and maybe I wouldn't have, even started it. So thanks, Brendan, for that first interview and everything, and taking a chance on me when I really didn't know what I was doing at that point. But luckily enough, I think I kind of figured it out. So that was cool. And then, yeah, it was really enjoyed by our school. I know a lot of people watched it, and I got a lot of positive feedback from that, which is why I decided to keep on doing it. And then I had baseball that year. Between, I was talking with Coach Chase and Coach Merrill, and just trying to figure out how I could progress, because I was like thinking I might be like a swinger between JV and varsity, just because I didn't have the experience, but I worked really hard during the off season. And it was cool. It was cool to just keep getting better, and there was some frustrating times during that season. There were some good times too, and I'd worked really hard, and I was disappointed to not be up at varsity at the start of the year, and my goal was to kind of get there as the season progressed on. And I knew that they needed somebody to help out with the stats for Cooperstown, because they took the trip to Cooperstown every year, and Coach Chase approached me and said that you'd be able to do that, and you could learn how to operate the iPad and the game changer and everything. So that was cool. And I remember I went on the road to learn how to do that when varsity had a game, and I was with varsity that day, and just kind of helping out and learning that. And that was up at Prospect Mountain, and that was cool. But then at the end of the game, Coach Chase turned to me, and I was just there to help out. But always got to be prepared. I was thrown into the game for my first varsity at bat, and I'll never forget that. That was one of my favorite moments of my high school career, along with the year prior when I got my first hit at Pembroke. And that was also a cool feeling, because both JV and varsity were there to see that. And then with this one, I was there with the whole varsity team, and I finally got into a game. I thought my at bat went decent. I held the ball off. I had a good eye there. Just that last pitch, they called a strike. And personally, I still think it was a ball. We have it on video. Looked like a ball to me. Don't want to insult umpires or referees or anything. I know they're all working hard and they're doing the best they can, but I still think it was a ball. Anyway, I got to kind of go back to, I was with both teams and had some experience with both teams that year. And then I was back on JV to close out the end of the JV season, and we were at Guilford, and I knew that was probably the last time for Coach Merrill as my coach, and he really believed in me, which made a huge difference in my confidence, I'd say, and just the way I, kept going with everything. And yeah, he had played a big role in that, and trying to help me learn how to coach and everything. So I wanted to have a good game for him, because I knew it was probably going to be our last game together, and it was up at Guilford. and I did not play well at all, and we lost, and I felt really bad. I was really sad. I'd say that was definitely the hardest baseball experience of my career. And yeah, I was sad. I made a lot of mistakes defensively, got in my own head, and that was a disappointment for sure. But I used it as motivation. It was probably one of the worst defensive games in my career, but I knew that I could do better for sure. So that was some motivation for me. Anyway, with that pushed aside, I had still worked hard throughout the year, and Coach Chase texted me that night and said that I could be called up for the playoffs if I wanted to be a part of it. And I said, absolutely, I'd love to be with the varsity team. And I was there with them throughout the first game when we won at home against Campbell, and then we went to Monadnock in the second round, and we were big underdogs, but we played them super close, and we went in there with some confidence that we could win it, and we played a really good game. It just unfortunately did not go our way. High quality game. We played them a lot closer than pretty much every other team had throughout the whole season, and the team had gotten better throughout the year, but ran into a really good team, and it was just unfortunate. And I felt bad for a lot of my friends who were seniors, just like the same way I did with the basketball team. And I decided that I was going to interview some of those guys for sure. So I interviewed Coach Chase, and that was the second interview I did about kind of his coaching career, because that was his last year coaching the varsity baseball team here in Hopkinton. And that was cool. And then I interviewed my buddy Jack Moroni. He had an outstanding senior year, both with football, with basketball, and with baseball. So, yeah, that was cool. And then I had a lot of other guys that came on. I had Eli and Aiden Burns from the lacrosse team. They both played really well their senior years. I'm pretty sure they both made all-state teams. I think Eli was first team. I think Aiden might have been too. I'm not sure, but they lost in the championship, and I know that was a tough experience for them because they really wanted to win it their senior year, and I was sad for them, but I was glad that I was able to do something for those guys because they're really good guys, and give them an opportunity to tell their stories. And then my neighbors, Theo, Bridget, Hayden, all were, good friends of mine for a number of years, and they had just completed their first years of college. So I interviewed all of them about college sports, and I appreciate them being my neighbors and everything, and supporting me, and having that support system in my neighborhood was for sure a good thing. And just kind of all these people who took a chance on me and said, sure, I'll come over and try this thing, even though it's a new thing and it's not the cool thing to do yet. So I learned a lesson that the people you have in your life, you got to have good people around you. And if stuff is going super well, everybody wants to be your friend. But if stuff is, not going well, that's when you figure out who your real friends are. And that was before any of this stuff was popular, I guess, and was kind of the thing to do. So I appreciate them for taking a chance on me, because all those people are my real friends. And yeah, for sure, that was really cool of them. So thank you guys. I know that a lot of you are probably listening. So then going into my senior year, that was it, and I knew I wanted to do the best I could with it. So the fall of my senior year, I got the opportunity to run the Talon, our school newspaper, and I really thought about that and wanted to do that. And Miss Walton gave me the opportunity to do that, which I'm very thankful for, because not only did I get the chance to write a bunch of articles, we also, had a website going at that point, and we could read stuff online, and we could do a lot more papers, and it was a lot more efficient, and I could do my sports articles, and then I could add the video component here on YouTube that you guys all see to that report. And I thought that made for much better quality reports. The opportunity to be a leader in that and get to work with other people, lead them, and learn about their different styles and what works for them was for sure a good experience and a learning opportunity for me. So I was super happy doing that. I mean, every day after school it was something different. I was at soccer one day, then I was at golf the next day, and then I'd be on the road for soccer. And it was just it was fun because it was something different every day, and I was able to capture the stories of those athletes, and got an opportunity with the Concord Monitor to volunteer to do some papers for them. So thanks to Miss Walton for helping me set up that connection to be able to do that. And for sure that was really awesome. And yeah, I just kept going with it. And then I got to do football too, a little bit of cross country. There was some field hockey. With football, I got the chance to be the Red Hawks PA announcer last year, which was super awesome, and that was really cool. I enjoyed doing that as well, and I could do all my sports reports and be a part of that. So yeah, and I also played fall ball to try and get better for the season coming up, my senior season. My guy Tyler Charkowski, him and I, we had been teammates for a long time, and we just kept working together to try and improve and get better at the sport, and invited others to do the same. Then we made some good friends. Shout out to Andy Hunton and Gabe David. A lot of fun games, even though they were early morning double headers that went for a long time. You know, on Sundays, you had to get up super early, and that wasn't the most fun. But once we got to the games, it was fun. It was worth it for sure, and got the opportunity to get better. I played some first base there, and got better at first. And my running during the off season, because I took up a lot of running during the off season. That definitely helped me get stronger. My legs get stronger, and just kind of work on my mechanics to get better. And that was really good experience. And then they moved me to right field, and they gave me a chance at right field. And I hadn't played a lot of outfield. I'd played some outfield, but I hadn't played the previous season. When I was a junior, I played a lot of first base, so it was different. But I thought I did really well in the right field that season. I just caught a ton of pop flies out there. I don't know if I had any errors over in right field. Maybe I had one or two, but I think overall I had a really good season in right field. My arm developed a lot during that off season. My arm got a lot stronger. I was able to throw the ball in from the outfield, and I hadn't been able to do that in the past. And then hitting wise, it was good to have those double headers because I got a ton of reps and just hitting grew my confidence a little bit, and got a hit like almost every weekend, which was for sure a good thing. And it was good to get those reps in, and it was just a really good experience overall. And then it was winter time, and that meant basketball again. So we had the alumni game, and that was all these former athletes who I knew who were coming back to school for the first time since, my interviews had really started and became a big thing, I guess, with our town. And seeing all those people come in, and seeing that some of them knew about the interviews and that they were happy with it, and proud of me, was really cool. And getting encouragement from them, and getting to interview some of those guys, Mike Oberheim, Owen Milchich, Katie Meserve. I mean, there was a lot of people there who I got a chance to interview and talk to, which was pretty cool. Yeah, and Coach Roy, who had worked at the school the previous years, was saying to me he wasn't working there that year, but he sent me a message. He's like, "You should broadcast the alumni game." I was like, "Oh, that sounds like fun." And that was probably one of the most fun games I ever had at broadcasting, for sure. I talked to Mr. Meserve about it, and he's like, "Oh, that's a great idea to broadcast the alumni games." So I got to broadcast both for the boys and the girls alumni games, and seeing everybody together. It was like a giant Hopkinton family reunion and everything. So that was super cool. And then yeah, after that, I went to go see my buddy Theo in Colorado. He was out there, and that was a cool experience. And that was right before our home opener. We got caught in a blizzard actually at like 6 a.m. trying to drive like 3 hours across the state to get into the Denver airport to get back home. And it was crazy because there was like all these winds and everything, and snow. And we were like, oh man, I was like, I got to get back home to call the home opener tomorrow night. I was just super excited about that. And I knew the previous season that I wanted to come back, and I still was going to have some sort of a role with the basketball team, but I didn't know what it was. There was a lot, the girls' team was pretty much the exact same the year forward till the next year. There was like one change, but overall it was pretty much the same team. So I was excited because I knew I could come back and broadcast. But for the boys' team, they had graduated 7 seniors the year before, and both coaches, Coach Signor and Coach Merrill, weren't coaching that team anymore, so I was not sure what was going to happen. I wasn't sure who the new coach was. I wasn't sure if whoever it was going to be super welcoming to me and was going to be a fan of what I do and was going to have me over there and have me help out, or if they weren't going to, want me there and wanted to minimize my involvement. So I met Coach Liam McNicholas, the JV coach, and quickly formed a good relationship with him. I appreciate him. He watches a lot these videos and everything, and he just has a very positive attitude about him. And he was, happy to have my involvement with the team, and he was good with that. And then we didn't know who our new varsity head coach was going to be for the boys basketball team. So they hired this guy, Matt Miller from Pelham, and I didn't know who he was. Nobody knew who he was until he was hired here, I guess. But we quickly found out and was super happy to have him. We found out that there was this coach coming in with a big beard and everything, and we're like, this is a lot different than what we're used to. So shout out to Coach Miller, and he was yeah, that was cool. Coach Miller and Coach McNicholas and those guys there, and they both were super positive and encouraging me in everything that I did and all the interviews and the broadcasting and the involvement with writing for the team and everything. So they just encouraged that, and they really let me do what I wanted to do with that. So I appreciate you guys. I know you guys are watching. You guys watch the video, so I appreciate it. Happy to have been with you guys for that season and everything. And same goes for all the players on both the varsity JV boys and girls teams. So it was a lot of fun to be with you guys during those past couple seasons. Anyway, also shout out to our athletic director, Mr. Meserve, and Mrs. Meserve for getting me involved with the broadcasting. And Mr. Meserve really gave me the opportunity to work with the newspaper the way I wanted to. Well, Miss Walton had me working with the newspaper like that and gave me the opportunity to kind of do what I wanted with it. But Mr. Meserve gave me the green light to go travel with all these sports teams here and cover these games and write these stories and do these interviews. So I really appreciate that. That was for sure pretty cool of all those people to let me do that. Some of my favorite memories from that season were, winning those games was cool. I really liked the trip we did. We had a road home and home series with the Kearsarge teams where we had both varsity teams traveling together, and that was like right before Christmas, and we got to travel with both varsities together, all the coaches and myself, to be involved in that. Just really felt like one big family, and I really love you guys. I appreciate that you allowed me to be a part of it for that and interview you guys, and I wanted to do the best I could by you guys, and I hope you feel like I did. Covering the Capital Area Classic was also a pretty cool thing. That tournament when we had all those teams coming in, a lot of Division II schools, and I felt like both teams played really well throughout that tournament. Working with Jim was cool with that too, and getting a broadcast for him for the whole varsity boys season was pretty awesome as well. And then around Christmas time, it was cool to see everybody come back. Shout out to Brendan, though. He was my first guest on here, and it was cool to have him come back home, one of my best friends for sure. And I told him I was going to work on a project for engineering. And my engineering teacher, Mr. Christie, also shout out to him for getting me involved with engineering and making engineering fun for me. Appreciate it. And we had built a bobsled together. So we'd gotten these two 55-gallon drums, these skis, pieces of wood and screws, and we just figured it out together, I guess, and worked on that in my garage over winter break. And I was thinking that I didn't want to be on my phone that whole winter break, sitting in my room my senior year and just kind of doing that every day, because I know a lot of people get caught up in just doing that, scrolling through social media. I was like, no, we got to do something cool, and that for sure was a super fun experience to do with him, and I get to race those bobsleds. And then that was actually most popular video by far to that point. Blew up in the algorithm. Thank you guys for checking it out. Definitely helped out, and that was a cool project. And Mr. Christie helping me out with a bobsled when I decided to build the second one and make that my main engineering project for the year. That was so much fun. That was really awesome, and I appreciate those people, because they definitely did a lot for me and encouraged me with engineering, and that was a lot of fun. Anyway, Got to cover hockey, skiing, and everything that winter. And then we had the Final Four. Both teams had made it to the Final Four. I'm not going to forget those games. You know, boys had that first game at home, had the victory. Was it Monadnock? I'm not sure now. I don't know. I know Summers worth the year prior, but we had a good game in the first round. I don't know. No, it wasn't Summers. Ah, no, it's gonna drive me crazy. I forget who that first round was, but I remember we beat Campbell in the second round, and that was a really close game down to the wire. And I was super proud of those guys for making it to the Final Four, making it farther than they did the year prior, even with everything they had lost and the transition of new coaching and everything. So I was super proud of everybody. And with the girls' team, Coach Roy, I know Ed was talking about retiring the year before, but he decided to come back for a final season. And I had formed a relationship with the varsity girls as well, and having that team be, so appreciative of my broadcasting and encouraging of that, even though it was kind of like a different thing, and they could have thought it was weird or whatever, but no, it was just, all love, all positive to encourage me to just keep doing it, and they were happy to participate with the interviews and have their names in the newspaper and everything. So I really appreciate them as well, and I was super happy to see them succeed and improve from last year instead of a first round exit, make it all the way back to the Final Four. The first home game, or yeah, the playoffs against Newfound, they had the victory there, and then going on the road up to Prospect Mountain. That was a fun trip on Coach Roy's birthday and getting the upset win there. But I thought they were going to win anyways. I know for sure they would. But they did great. So both teams did great, and it made my job a lot easier to have all these sports teams, playing well while I was still there. Because if they had been losing, it would have been much harder to do video interviews and write articles that people enjoyed. So just shout out to all those teams for being successful. And it was unfortunate that they both lost in the Final Four, but they should be super proud of themselves. And I'm proud of Coach Roy for winning Coach of the Year, and all our, all-state players on both teams. Proud of Coach Miller in his first year making it all the way there. Coach Liam, shout out JV Coach of the Year. And letting me interview you guys after all that was super, super cool. So baseball, we had a big transition. We had graduated 6 seniors the year prior. We had 3 guys transfer, 2 guys play lacrosse instead of baseball that year. So our team was much, much different. Brand new coach, because we had, it was Coach Chase, Coach Brandt, and Coach Mostu as his 2 assistants the year prior, and he decided to not be coaching baseball anymore. And yeah, I was grateful for Coach Chase to let me go down to Pinkerton this year and help out with them and learn from them and interview those guys, because that was cool. So I want to shout out him too as well, and encouraging me, that as well. And Coach Merrill as well deserves some credit for getting me to where I was, for sure. Even though that last game at Guilford didn't go the way we had wanted it to, but that was definitely a lot of fuel for me during the off season to get better. So we had our new coach, Coach Hill, and I remember meeting with him for the first time back in January, and I just knew that he had told me all his ideas about the program. I could see he was, super motivated and happy, and he was doing coaching for the right reasons. And then he was also paused after he talked about a lot about what he wanted to do and his ideas, and he said, "What do you want? You've been a part of this program for a while. What are your ideas? I don't want to take this over." And I appreciated that. And so I got to do that with Coach Hill, and that was pretty cool that he let me do that. And I was named team captain. It was an honor to do that and be nominated by all my guys for that, and serve alongside my teammate for a long time, Tyler Charkowski. We encouraged each other. We had been teammates for a long time, and that had been our goal for a long time, a while. And so to do that was super fun. I was motivated for our first game against Monadnock, but they're just such a good team. We didn't come away with that one, unfortunately. Newfound was a crazy game where we played into the dark, and then we had to resume that game later. That was one of the craziest experiences of my baseball career. Going up to Guilford, I was super motivated for that, and I knew I wanted to have the best defensive game of my career because of what happened the year prior. And I did. I had 11 putouts in that game, And, we only played 6 defensive innings, so I was responsible for 11 of our 18 outs in that game. So I was highly motivated for that for a long time, and I think it showed. And I came in with a lot of energy and helped to energize our team. I think our whole roster might have gotten on base that game. That was awesome. Unfortunately, we didn't win that, and I'd struck out to end the game the previous season. So to come back at varsity and do that was cool. And instead, I created the last out for them. I caught a pop fly in between home and first, and I remember charging in from first, screaming 3-3-3 and catching that, and I was going crazy because that was the last out that we had gotten from Guilford for that game, and it was time to go to bat. And we played well offensively as well, just didn't quite come back in that, unfortunately. Got our first win over at Raymond. That was super cool. I was super happy for our guys to get that, and I got a hit in that game. I played well. I thought I scored a run. I walked, and I played well defensively as well. So that was good. And that was one of our best games of the season. And then my senior game, home against Belmont, and that was crazy. I played well defensively. I played well offensively too. I just could not get on base. I hit the ball so hard a couple times, and they just credit to those guys. They have a really good infield, and they made the plays. But at the end of it, I got to, walk off the field and salute the fans and say thank you to everyone who came out to support me, because there was probably 5 times as many people at the game then than had been at any other game that whole season. And I had asked a bunch of people to go. Shout out to Tyler for kind of creating a little campaign there to get everybody to go to the game and support me, and being the lone senior. We didn't have the best season, but I was super proud to lead that group and have that opportunity, and teach those guys some lessons, and that I hope they'll carry with them. I know they will, and I know they'll continue to get better. So I was really grateful to be the captain of that team. That meant a lot. And my guys, Brendan Elrick and Owen O'Brien, showed up for me, and we did that little interview after the game. That was the first time I was interviewed on my channel, and that was pretty cool. I really like that a lot. So a shout out to them. And yeah, Coach Belty, who I had in middle school, who had seen the start of my baseball journey, was on that team, so it was cool to have him there. And then I knew entering the season that our team was good, but we needed a little bit more coaching wise, because we needed somebody who I think had experience in years past with the varsity program, and like in the past couple of years. And so I decided to talk to Coach Hill, and we had a conversation, and we decided to go get Coach Villari again to come out and coach. And I was super happy to have him on that team for my senior year, because he was the only coach I had all 4 years throughout high school. So I was super glad to have Coach Villari on our team. And yeah, it meant a lot. And regardless of our record, I told Coach Hill, I think regardless of what the outcome is of our season, Coach Villari is going to help make this team better. And I definitely think he did. And I was happy to have him coach, and all the other coaches I had along with me for that. So that was cool. And then lacrosse, I got to cover lacrosse, and I got to cover softball for the playoffs after baseball was done. And I had fun with that. That was kind of the end of my interviews at Hopkinton. And right after graduation, lacrosse team's state championship, got to cover that. And that was pretty cool. And we won the state championship. And that was the last time, really. That was like the end of kind of my interview career there in my senior year. So to end it with a state championship, what better can you hope for? And to see all my friends and everything win that for them, that was super cool. And also see, Aiden and Eli, who had been here before and lost in their senior year, unfortunately, and just hearing how disappointed they were when I interviewed them here, and they gave me a chance, and appreciate them for sure. So I was happy that they could win it as assistant coaches. After graduation, got the opportunity to do the Babe Ruth Softball World Series. Jim had asked me to do that, and Abram, shout out to Abram, Eli, Hunter, had a blast doing that and learning experience there. And shout out to Debbie too as well. Shout out to everybody who was involved with that. I had a lot of fun doing that in Florida and just calling that, and you guys probably saw a lot of the interviews here on the channel from doing that, so shout out to them. Thanks, Jim, for all the advice and everything with broadcasting. You definitely made me a lot better with that. A couple other things. That sign right there, that was one of my engineering projects I did with Mr. Christie. So thanks to him for helping me to make that sign. you know, thanks to my parents, mom and dad, for encouraging me throughout and everything. That meant a lot. And thanks to my little sister Grace for sure, because she helped out with running the camera for a lot of these interviews that you guys have seen throughout the past year. And she really stepped up big for me to help me out with that. So thank you, everybody. Remember to have good people around you. When you have good people around you, friends and everything, that makes a real difference, and that helps you get where you want to go and just kind of own what you want to do and just go out there and do it. So I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for watching and continuing to do so, encouraging me along. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate, you know, people reaching out, text, DMs, everything, for just encouraging me along. Thank you guys and everything. And just, you know, I plan on keep doing this for you guys. I have a lot of fun with it. So just keep watching, please. And thank you.